It's a closed market. It's really, really, really difficult to get a permit, right? And so let's navigate some of that. And then we want to talk about how to stand out in some of these crowds as well.
City of Orange, they actually have some very, very good rules, which I think other cities should model. Cities that are looking at shutting down short-term rentals altogether. What Orange did is they got together with a group from that area that helped them, that was city council friendly.
Hi, I'm Wyatt. And I'm Grace. And you're listening to Our Dad and your host of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Sean Moore, and we're back with our Friday interviews with successful short-term rental investors. Today, we've got Mr. Andy Ingram from California. He's on the road in his RV. He's actually in Tennessee right now, working on property number 2. So, Andy, thanks for joining us. I'm excited about our conversation today.
Glad to be here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I always like to start with the backstory. It's always interesting for me to hear where somebody comes from, what pays the bills, what got you interested in real estate in general, and then short-term rentals. And those of you listening, I always say success leaves clues. That's why we have these conversations. Andy has the number 1 property in short-term rental in Orange, California, just minutes from Disneyland. So he knows a little bit about succeeding in this game. And so, I'm excited about that conversation. We'll dive into that property here shortly. But tell me a little bit about backstory. What pays the bills and what got you interested in real estate in general?
Pays the bills. Right now, mainly I'm a firefighter full-time in Anaheim, and been there for 35 years now, a long time, about ready to go close the door on that chapter of life and move into other things. So investing in real estate is very, very cool. I'm excited about that. Back history, too, I do have construction background before fire. So I was a journeyman drywall carpenter, and I went on from that to have my own drywall company, and then a general contractor for a bit, and then ended up doing that while I was working as a firefighter as well. So just burning the candle on both ends all the time, trying to make it work. What got me into the short-term rental actually was ended up divorced and broke. And I had to figure out a way to make things work. And I ended up buying a cabin in Big Bear, California. And it was when the market was, crashed. 2013 is when I bought there. And the pricing was just starting to come back. And I started that place as a short-term rental. My kids were with my ex at that time, and they were one of them was over 18. They were kind of at an age where it was just chaos anyway for all of it. But the Big Bear became my divorce recovery project, I call it. And I rebuilt an old 1934 log cabin up there and made it work. So that was my beginning. My realtor up there told me about Airbnb. I'm like, what's that? So that's how I got started. I was VRBO to start, and then tried Airbnb, and it was just way, way, way better in my opinion of the short-term rental, at least for that market in Big Bear.
Yeah. Did you, with that property that you got into with your construction background and everything, like you said, it was a rehab project. Was the intention to flip it, or was the intention to actually hold it?
Was to hold it and rent it.
Yeah.
The price was so low on there, and it had fallen out of escrow twice. At 149, it fell out.
Oh wow!
And I ended up picking it up at 135. I had a buddy of mine that I worked with that had bought a cabin in the area for 105, and I asked me to help him rebuild it because at the time there was no overtime because the economy was tanking and stuff. So he knew I had construction background. I went and helped him work on it. But at 105, I'm thinking I could pay this off in 5 years for what I pay for rent in Orange County.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, I'm going to go figure out how to do it. So I did. I paid it off in 4.5 years.
Awesome. That's awesome. You still have that one?
I do not.
What was the decision to exit on that?
COVID started and they shut down travel, and Big Bear area is like 70-80% of everything there is rental. And I thought the market was going to tank up there, and so I got scared and I sold it, and
Yeah.
so I did pretty good still on it and made some money, and it is what allowed me to move into the orange property. So for a short time I had both, and so it's overall it did what it was intended to do. It just would have been nice to have kept it as a legacy, a first home thing.
Right. Especially where the basis was so low that, and then you paid it off so soon,
Yeah.
and then, like you said, but we all navigating markets, and especially when you're in California, that was an area that had heavy shutdowns, and it was a lot scarier in those areas than some of the other areas where, like, I live in Utah and we didn't have really heavy shutdowns. So we didn't really feel like the world was ending, right? We didn't really feel that, but there were areas that it was really scary because everything shut down and everything was like locked down, and it's like, holy crap, I better liquidate before the bottom falls out, right?
And that's unheard of.
Yeah.
When that shut down, it's like, well, we better take notice here, because that's the whole world ends when Disneyland shuts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And you're just like, wow, what the heck's going on, right? And so, hindsight's always 20/20, and it's always good to, but like you said, it still was a really good investment. It's just when you look back, you're like, man, if I kept that, then after that period, it skyrocketed, I'm sure. So the person who bought it from you probably did really well on it as well, and they're probably doing really well on it, even though you made a nice upside gain on it still.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other side of it too is the area absolutely did get flooded with short-term rentals. Because for right after I sold it, Airbnb listed Big Bear, California as the number one place to go to in the country. I'm like, Bear? How could this be? But that was after I'd sold it, and but with that, investors came like crazy, and totally flooded that area with short-term rentals.
So along with a lot of other areas in that during that time frame, it was, all of a sudden short-term rentals just exploded onto the map as as an asset class and as an accommodation that was preferable to a lot of travelers. That COVID era just absolutely put fuel on the fire, and a lot of markets got doubled and tripled inventory almost, it felt like, overnight, right? It was crazy. And that leads me into, and we'll talk a little bit more about the orange property, and then what it takes to be the number one property in that market, and what it takes to, and this stand out in these crowded markets, because your orange is a little different because it's a closed market. It's really, really, really difficult to get a permit, right? And so let's navigate some of that, and then we want to talk about how to stand out in some of these crowds as well.
Okay. City of Orange, they actually have some very, very good rules, which I think other cities should model. Cities that are looking at shutting down short-term rentals altogether. What Orange did is they got together with a group from that area that helped them, that was city council friendly to us, to some of the short-term rentals, because they see the income potential for the city as well.
Right.
But they have to navigate the angry neighbors that don't want us to be there. And I get that. And there are bad short-term rental landlords for sure that give us a bad name, but the good ones by far outnumber the bad ones, and just people are afraid of us. So the city of Orange, they only allowed 125 people to be licensed in the city. And I was right place at right time, and saw it coming, and was online immediately. I treated it like a fire application, and got my stuff in within an hour of it opening. And so I was able to get the license on that. And it really was a gold mine to have. Some of the things they require, they don't allow the short-term rental guests to park on the street, for example, which that helps the neighbors to not have a problem with parking issues. And it also curtails the parties, which is kind of interesting. So that's, I think a very, very good rule that I'm going to continue to implement no matter where I make additional places, is because it keeps the crowds down when they have to park on property. Well, I guess depending on the size of your property,
Yeah. Right. So, in California, it's going to keep the crowds down a lot because most people are not on huge lots there, right?
That's for sure. They're in smaller lots. That's absolutely for sure. So
Yeah. And let's talk about, just for those people that are listening that are unfamiliar, why you chose, like, what made you choose Orange? I know you're familiar, you're from there, you're Anaheim
Yeah,
firefighter for 35 years. It's right in your backyard because this is
yeah,
a neighboring community to
it's
Anaheim, right?
yeah. I grew up I went to high school right down the street,
Yeah.
so it was hometown to me, and I knew it was close to Disney, that it would be a good draw. My experience with Big Bear, I felt would give me a very good um, base to work from to make that a short term rental. I was also looking for something that had living quarters behind the house, which this one in particular did. It's got a little casita in the back of the house, which is phenomenally awesome.
Yeah.
Where I live on site and have a short term rental on the primary residence, and that also keeps the partiers away. And when they see that the landlord is actually there, they don't want to be there if they're a partier.
Yeah.
It's encouraging or whatever for families, which is my target for Disneyland. Of course, I'm 5 miles to Disneyland, and so
Yeah.
that's a huge target.
Yeah.
So
So outside of the resorts, your proximity to one of the major profit drivers in the
yeah,
country, but obviously that area is 5 miles. That's a big deal.
that's very very. And then the other areas like the Honda Center and Anaheim Stadium, I'm only 2 miles to those. Uh,
Yeah.
and so yeah, and it's a great area if you can get a license anywhere in the area. The city of Orange, their process is they've got about 100 people on the wait list. I can't even sell my place and upgrade and go to another location. I have to go to the bottom
Yeah.
of the wait list. And so anybody that is selling or moving out of the area, they can't sell the license with the house. So that would be the only way for that list to move. And it's only been in operation for about a year and a half. I think they moved about 10 people on the list last.
Yeah.
So it'll take 5 to 10 years, I would say, if you were on the wait list. You have to,
Yeah.
and you have to own a property to get on the wait list.
I was just going to say, because that was my next question. There's a lot of areas that you can't even put your name on a wait list unless you own a property. So it's a lot of people who probably are buying primary residence in that area. They live there, or they have a long-term rental that they're going to try to convert, but they've got to have a use for that property, knowing that they're probably not going to be on the short-term rental, list for a while. Right.
Right. There is Chapman
Yeah.
University is a mile away, and that's another big draw. That would be something that people could invest in, and just have it as a college dorm house. And
Yeah.
a lot of money for those too, about $1,500 a room.
Yeah.
So that would cover quite a bit as well while you're on a wait list.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always, so there's a couple things working for you in that market. The biggest one is you actually have a permit. Now, the other thing is, though, you're able to operate in a closed market. Those are very helpful things, but you're also competing with a lot of, you're a major area when it comes to Anaheim and everything else. So not only other short-term rentals in the neighboring communities that are available, but also all the resorts, right? Because as a traveler coming in to do some of those things, they're saying, okay, do I want to stay hotel? Do I want to stay a resort? Do I want to stay at a short-term rental?
Right.
And so you still have to have a great customer experience, and you still have to have certain things that you're doing to operate at the very top of the market, regardless of some of the advantages of being in a closed market with a permit in good proximity to really good profit drivers, right? Those are all, I don't want to act like that isn't a big deal. Those things are very, very helpful, and it's a big deal that you have that, and you don't want to get rid of that, right? But what I think that you started really dialing in is that customer experience. And let's talk a little bit about that, because when I look at your property and I look at your performance, it's 100% has to do with the experience that you're providing these guests.
Absolutely. It's a connection with the traveler for sure. Because that's part of why I love what you're teaching, is because it falls right in line with what I'm doing. And that is to provide it's more than a room. It's an experience. It is, people want to know that, or want you to remember their names is a big one. People like a personal touch, the personal experience on all of it. And I like to have, that wow factor coming in when people just come in and they're just blown. The first impression is everything. So I message them, park in the driveway, that give them their choice of an entry code. Because some people want a birthday, some people want
Yeah. Something they remember.
what remembers for them, what works. So it's special to them right from the get go. And when they walk in the door, I've got a Hawaiian theme going, it's Hawaiian music is playing. I've got gas lamp bulbs in the front entryway, whether it's day or night. I leave them on. I leave the lights on throughout the house. So it shows extremely well when they're walking through. I rebuilt the whole house top to bottom to cater to short-term rental. I've got a thermostat in every room, so they can adjust the temperature, zone controlled, on the stuff. And then when they walk to the outside, if I happen to be there, I've got a waterfall on a timer for the pool. And if I'm there, I'll crank it on for an hour. It goes for an hour at a time, and have that running when they arrive. And so it's just a wow all the way through.
Right. Just similar that you would find at like a high-end resort, right? You just, exactly. All of your senses are getting stimulated, right? And so it's just like the sound, the sights, the walkthrough, you're like, man, this is awesome. Everything's congruent. Everything feels good. I feel like I'm on vacation now, and they love it. Right. And that, like you said, that's that first impression that there are those little things and the little details that make a big difference. And even the communication, like you said, on the front end, like we were talking, we just had a workshop in Newport. So we were right in your backyard, and we just met last week, and we were talking about this and the difference between when you go into like the Ritz or the Montage versus the Marriott or the Hyatt, right? I go to the Marriott, they're nice hotels, good properties, and everything else. I go to the Montage or the Ritz, they know my name. They've communicated with me before I got there. When I walk through the doors, I get this smell that hits me, and I'm like, it's just everything is, but not only top of the line, but it's also very personalized, and that's what you're doing as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell them my favorite part about what you do is that experience, because you said you cater to families. And so, you bring in this great Hawaiian theme, and everybody, you got the music playing, you got all those things that are stimulating our senses. And then a lot of people leave welcome gifts and we talk about handwritten notes and making it personalized and all that stuff. What do you do to where, like, one of the things that you do for the kids, and I think it's one of the coolest things I've heard. And so I told you I want to talk to you about on the podcast because it was awesome.
I think everybody should have it. Once I started doing it, it was like, I put a 3-tier candy machine in there, and I've got M&Ms, peanut M&Ms, and peanut butter M&Ms in each one. And then when I first got it, I put a quarter in, and I got like 3 M&Ms. I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm trying to get them for a quarter, So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to throw $10 in quarters in the tray, and they could just have at it, And the kids just make a beeline. They see that candy machine, and they the parents tell me, that they like run for it. They look back at mom and dad like, can we?
Yeah.
So they're all about it. So the kids are sold. A bottle of wine on the table for mom and dad, whatever they prefer, red or white or champagne or whatever, I don't care. And so now mom and dad sold too, and then all the senses are working in there. It's all, everybody's like overjoyed, and the kids can't, between that and the pool, they don't want to go to Disneyland.
Right. They're there to stay now, right?
Multiple people do that where they'll go 2 or 3 days at Disney, and they're like, why are we leaving?
Right.
The next day.
I love it. And I love the candy machine is really simple, right? It's not something that's like overly complicated, but there's layers of why it works. And one, it's really fun, right? We all remember when we were a kid, and we all remember going to the candy machines and when we're leaving the grocery store or something, and they're fun, right? So they bring back that memory. We always wanted to do it. Kids love it. But then you leave out a bowl of $10 worth of quarters, right? And so there's this level of trust by doing that you immediately gain. And they're like, and because of that, because you trusted them, and they're like, hey, this is awesome. Is this for us? And it doesn't really cost you anything because you're recouping those $10 when they put it in the candy machine, and they just get the free candy, which is great. But there's this level of trust by leaving that $10 of quarters out, that they automatically are going to raise their awareness of, hey, Andy really cares about us. We're going to take care of his property. We're going to do nice things, around the property. We're going to clean up after ourselves. We're going to do these things that we're going to treat it like our own. And
I feel like it's home.
Yeah, exactly. And it's because it's that law of reciprocity, right? You led with being very thoughtful, and they know you want them to have a great experience. They know you want them to have a great time at their property, make some great memories. And in return, they're going to treat it like their own. They're going to take care of it. And you have so much. I just know that that's one of those things that's going to help you have so few problems that you have to deal with, people not taking care of properties, because you just see it. We see it all the time when I talk to hosts like yourself that go the extra mile. And sometimes they're simple things. And I think that's one of the coolest things that I've heard as far as being able to deliver this really great experience, but have this like law of reciprocity that immediately kicks in. It's not expected. People don't expect you to have $10 a quarter sitting out to use for the free candy, but it's a level of trust that you're just leaving that there for them. And it's not really that expensive. Like a bottle of wine's more expensive than that. And we do that all the time, right?
And we do that. Everybody does that. So
yeah. And it is still great. It's still nice, and we're giving them something. We're making it nice for them. But I think that if those of you listening, this is one of those things that has like multiple layers of benefits by doing something like this, and I think it's brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been magic for fingers crossed or whatever. I'm sitting at 160 5-star reviews. I haven't gone under there yet. So.
Yeah. That's incredible. And doesn't happen by accident. No. Those of you listening, that's why we have these conversations. Andy takes it very, very serious. He provides an amazing customer experience. It is one of his key indicators in saying, hey, this is what's important, and I want them to have a great experience. 165 5-star reviews later, and nothing below that is, their success leaves clues, you guys. And that's what I say. It's not just about having the right property in the right area. It's about creating this amazing experience for a specific target audience, and then being able to deliver it every time to every single person that walks through that door gets that same experience. And that's how you stack on those successes. Yeah.
Communication's a key too. And that starts right at the get-go. When I get an inquiry, I make it almost a mandatory personal thing that gets an answer within the hour, and usually within like 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
So and if sometimes there's communication going back and forth, sometimes it's an instant book, and I do leave the instant book on. And I know there's a lot of controversy with that. But it's a level of trust that I have with people, and some people want nothing but the instant book. They don't want to deal with, they don't want to talk to anybody. And yes, they want to communicate and talk your ear off, and some of them just don't. They don't want to say anything to you. I know.
And so it's meeting them where they're at, right? You can have a lot of really great guests that instant book and prefer an instant book, right? And there's a lot of really great guests that are going to have a lot of questions, and so you leave it up to them and meet them where they're at, and then provide this amazing experience, and that's part of the experience. And you're 100% correct when you say communication is a key part of it. I mean, if you ever read bad reviews, a lot of times it is the biggest complaint that people have is that they just were left in the dark. Nobody communicated with them. Nobody told them what was going on. They couldn't get a hold of somebody if there was a problem, right? And you'll see 5-star reviews where there was a problem, but they get a 5-star review because of the communication and the way they handled it, right? Because so 100% agree, as part of the customer experience, communication is the number one most important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. So we're in the RV. We're traveling across the country. We're in Tennessee right now. And so what's the plans right now for expanding into multiple markets and different markets?
Okay. Well, I'm looking at a place in Tennessee. I'm spoiled by Disneyland. So I'm thinking, okay, the next place that I can think of, and it's kind of fills a joint need or want for me. And one is to get into the rural. I like the rustic, the mountains, and all the green and stuff. I'd love to be in Hawaii, but that's just not my ballpark yet. I love to put the yet on there. But Tennessee is beautiful. And Nashville is an adult Disneyland,
Yeah.
and so it's going to always have a big draw here. So I'm actually in process right now buying a place. It's about 30 minutes outside of Nashville, west of, and it's a wreck of a house, and it needs a lot of TLC, but it's way under comps in the area, and I can rebuild it. That's not a problem.
Right.
The neighborhood is nice. It's quiet. It's very rustic. The street was freshly paved. The neighbors are big lot homes. I'm on the side of the street that doesn't have any neighbors. It's 6 acres. And it's a mountain on 3 sides. I'm in a little ravine in there. So I'm working on closing the deal on that. That's trying to close at the end of the month. And,
Awesome.
right.
And then you'll go to work on it, right?
Go to work.
So will you do most of the work on it?
Home.
Yeah. But you still have, I mean, how often do you have to be in California with the day job
Yeah, I'm off for 2 weeks from the fire department right now.
Okay.
But then I got to get back to work here actually at the same time it's supposed to close. I got to be back at work. So we'll see. I'm going to probably burn a bunch of vacation time and get back out here because there's a lot to do.
Yeah. What's your time frame on hoping on the launch? I mean, I know you probably have dialed in the work involved
It's going
to it.
Well, this one's a big rebuild. I mean, we're talking new kitchen, new bathrooms, move some walls, a lot of tear out. It's going to need quite a bit. So I'm thinking 3 to 6 months probably. We'll and I don't know a lot of people out here. I do have one good friend here in Nashville that I worked with fire department. He moved out here about 5 years ago. I'm outside his place right now. That's where I got my Wi-Fi. And because there's no Wi-Fi at the new place. Otherwise, there. Get lining up contractors and all of that stuff will be interesting with so without being here. So I do have a younger brother that he is likely to move out here and kind of take it on as a project manager, and then maybe property manager after that. Which I kind of like that idea of having like where my place is in Orange, having a casita in the back where I can stay and be on site. So I'll be looking at doing something similar to that here.
Nice. Yeah. With 6 acres, you got plenty of room to do that.
Yeah.
Real easy. So that's awesome. Well, and with your background and, being able to navigate, because those are big projects, and even with your background and the experience, they're still big projects and they take time, and, you're navigating a rebuild. But the nice thing is when you buy in a quality area, like you said, it's a really nice area, really nice street, and kind of the junkiest house on the street. There's another element of value add where when the minute you're done with it, you've got significant equity typically in those quality areas.
Absolutely. Yeah. This has an above ground pool with a above ground deck that has like probably 100 frogs in the pool, and the deck is all around. It's growing plants 3 feet tall out of the.
So it's a pond, not a pool. You just need to make it a bass pond. Go plant some bass in there, and they'll do fine. It's not a swimming pool anymore.
I'll tear all of that out, but I'm actually contemplating, or probably will, put a pickleball court in there.
Yeah.
And replace that, and maybe to look at putting an indoor large jacuzzi in. So we'll be bouncing these ideas, off you guys, your whole team of stuff. But it's a huge growing sport. Nobody's catering to it yet, and it's way less than putting a pool in, and there's no upkeep to it. You need a leaf blower.
Yeah. It's we've got a number of members who have put pickleballs in either in barn dominiums or in even outdoor pickleball courts where they're not enclosed. But we've got some enclosed ones. They do awesome, and so it's definitely a newer amenity that doesn't have a lot of data behind it. Like we can look up and see, how much does a pool add as an amenity on the short-term rental rates. Pickleballs there's just not enough people that have them that we can run those numbers as much, but we've seen significant increase. And just like you said, they're not a significant investment to put that amenity in. It's just a matter of do you have the space or not.
Yeah. And it's like, how you go after your target audience. I mean, it's something
exactly
I love to do. I know how addicting it is. And, there's no doubt in my mind that people will go there just because there's pickleball. And of course, it's close to Nashville. They'll do that. They'll get the 2-3 days in Nashville and want to come back there where it's peace and quiet, and
Yeah.
that whole concept in theory should work pretty good.
Good. Yeah. It's like you just mentioned, we build it based on our target audience and the experience we're trying to create. And it doesn't have to be like, okay, we're downtown Broadway Street and we're in a condo flat or something down there, and it's right in the middle of the action. We have a number of members on the outskirts who have acreage, and like you said, they can go get that feel, the city, right, do all their partying, do what they want to do, all the shows, all the concerts, everything else, and then they can come disconnect and say, hey, it's still vacation. I want to relax. I want some other things to do as well, which is the experience you're going to put together.
Yeah, which is what I want to copy when in Orange, is make it so nice of an area, house and surrounding outside. I can cut some trails into the forest and maybe have a lookout gazebo up there or something, and just make it an experience where it is calm and peaceful and quiet, where people want to just stay there as opposed to go do their adult Disneyland.
That's awesome. And so, and it's good to give them options, right? Your proximity
and enjoy the house.
Yeah, it's those options are always great to have. And so, awesome, Andy. It's these are always really fun conversations for me to have. They're always great that when we're able to get and have these conversations and be able to really kind of unpack the journey, because the journey always has lessons on the ups and the downs and what's working, what's not. We can, we're able to really take what's working and try to duplicate it and try to reverse engineer it. Those of you listening, that's the goal of that I hope you're doing when we're having these conversations, saying, hey, I think I can do that. 1 or 2 things every episode makes a big difference, right? And so at the end of every episode, I always like to ask you if you had to go back and give yourself some advice, and when you started this journey, is there something that you would say, hey, if you're going to start right now, all that I've learned, I would do it this way, or I would do this thing? Is there something that comes to mind?
I think the biggest thing that people just have a huge hesitation of getting started. You're not going to know it all. You're not going. So to me, the biggest thing or best thing that my ability to do is just to jump in and just start doing it, because we don't have all the answers. We don't know, but we'll figure it out. And you'll find out what works and what doesn't work along the way. So I would say the biggest thing to me is just to jump in and give it a go. Because it's, that I love that analysis paralysis analogy.
Yeah.
Where, like this property I'm on, I mean, I'm looking at 6 or 8 other ones. I'm like, well, that would be better. Or that would be better. Cause it doesn't matter. Just do one.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll never find one that's going to be absolutely perfect, no matter what. There's going to be a better deal or a better price or more acres or more whatever. Find one that works within the parameters of what you're looking for and get started. That's the biggest thing to me.
Love it. I love the advice, and I love when you say there's not a perfect property. I say it all the time. There's not a perfect market. There's not perfect properties. There's not perfect timing. There's not a perfect process. We want to mitigate risk as much as possible along the way. But at the end of the day, you just got to take action. You got to pick one and go with it, right? And then we maximize it to its potential and we do it again. If you're waiting for perfect, you're going to be waiting forever and you're never going to do anything. And so I love that piece of advice and couldn't agree with it more. It's something that is, we see people sitting. I always say the biggest problem people have is they get comfortable sitting and waiting and sitting on the sidelines and looking for that perfect property. And it's what costs them more money than they will ever realize.
Yeah.
So awesome, Andy.
Fun. Actually.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even when you make the mistakes, right? You make a mistake and you learn from it and you don't do it again and you're that much better for it, right? And when you're taking action, I don't know that there's ever a time in my life that I took action, even those times where I just screwed things up royally, where I look back and said, I wish I wouldn't have done that, because I learned so much from those actions that I took. And I feel proud of myself for taking actions, frankly, a lot of times, even it's like, man, I was scared to death to do that. And I still took the jump. And there's something that builds confidence there and the courage to do better next time. And so, yeah, I love that. And I think it's something that strangles a lot of people, especially adults. We didn't do that as kids. As kids, we took all the chances. We didn't care if we get told no. We asked again, right? And so we just kept saying, please. Yeah, exactly. So awesome, Andy. We're going to wrap up today. I appreciate it. I know you're on the road. I appreciate you making the time for us. It's really, it's so valuable to have these conversations. And so thank you so much for joining us. And I know so many people got a lot of information, it's so helpful for so many people you don't even know. And it's so helpful for me, and I appreciate it.
Fabulous. Thanks so much, Sean.
Absolutely. So those of you listening, you know that I always ask you a couple things at the end of every episode. First, I like to thank you. We know how valuable your time is, and we appreciate you spending it with us. If you know anybody else that wants to walk into this short-term rental game with their eyes wide open, be a part of some of these conversations, we don't run ads, we don't run sponsorships. So the only way the show grows is if you guys share it. And so if you have more than 30 seconds, like it, review it on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. If you have a friend that would like to be a part of these conversations, share the show. We very, very, very much appreciate that. And the final, most important thing that I ask you at the end of every episode is pick that one thing you can do today to start building that life you don't want to take vacation from. Cheers, my friends.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website? Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodacy.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.